Hello! How are you all? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Peyton and I'm here to do the roundup of my reading from the first quarter of the year, January through March. I know I'm very late filming this video. It honestly felt like April just zoomed by. I blinked and then, oh, we're leaving for Japan in a couple days. Yeah, I blinked and it's... Oh, hi, Mac. Mackie wants to say hi. He's like, don't talk about leaving. I've been so busy. Like, this has been a crazy busy month for work and life and just getting things ready for us to be gone and leave our pets while we're in Japan. They're my babies. I'm having a really hard time with leaving them. We have a sitter who's gonna watch them. But yeah, I have a really hard time leaving all of them. And yeah, I just need to be fine. This is our honeymoon, by the way. I got married in February. Finally going to Japan. It was the first place immediately, like, we have to go there. We're gonna be gone for a little bit, but I wanted to film a couple videos while I'm gone, and this is one of them. And I would have filmed this earlier, but I was busy. So I'm gonna talk about how I'm doing reading-wise. I'm gonna have some stats because that's fun, right? And I can't take credit for these stats. This is from Hardback Hoarder and her Etsy shop, so I just kind of inputted all of my data into it, but I did not build this. Hate Excel with a burning passion. Ugh. But it is really pretty. Pull up some stats, and at the end of the video, I'm going to talk about my favorites of the year so far. I have 3, and then I have 1 honorable mention. So let's get into it. All right, in the first quarter of the year, I've read 32 books. Wow. I think I was at this point towards the middle of last year, not within the first quarter at all. So that's cool. I have a goal of reading 75 books this year. I'm pretty sure I'm going to surpass that at this rate. And of that 75, I wanted 25 to be my 1001 books to read before you die list. I have read 1. I do want to try and change that. It's tough. I'm such a mood reader. Even though I own at least 50 books that are a part of this list physically. I just need to just make time for it because it's just, I don't know, the point of it is to read outside my comfort zone, maybe find new favorites that way, or just expand my reading repertoire. But I've been failing miserably. But the one book I did read from that list is one of my favorites from the first quarter, if that says anything. So I do want to make it more of a priority, but I think I'm going to cut back on that number. Instead of doing 25, maybe 10. I think 10 is safe. I think 10. I already know this is going to be a decade-long process of me going through this book, and obviously it's subjective, and they come out with a new edition every few years. So of those 32 books, that is 10,279 pages, and that is 56.5 hours listened on the audiobooks that I did listen to. In January, I read 9 books. In February, I read 11 books. In March, I read 12 books. Of those books, the reigning champs genre-wise, which I'm not surprised by this at all, were horror and fantasy. Fantasy with 8, horror with 10, lit fic with 4, romance with 5, and then 3 thriller. A lot of these books kind of cross genres or blended genres, so I just picked the first genre call out of those, and I read 3 mangas, 3 novellas, and of that 32, 3 audiobooks, 13 ebooks, 15 physical, and 1 mixture, which is tandem reading of me listening and reading at the same time. I get really into immersion reading in April. I think that's why I've had a decent reading month in April, which I'll have a wrap-up video for you shortly. I think immersion reading is my new favorite way to read. It's very fun. Of those authors, 4 authors had a debut this year so far. 21 were new to me. That's awesome. And 7 I had read before. Oh, of those 32, I did DNF 1 book. That is something I want to get better going forward this year. If I'm really not jiving with a book, I have 1 or 2 instances that I can just think off the top of my head where I should have just DNF'd the book, Butcher and Blackbird and The Woods All Black. I should have just DNF'd it because I knew they weren't for me, and I just kept going and I didn't give them good ratings because of it. And I just want to get better at that because I don't want it to put me in a reading slump, and I don't want to finish or really rate books that I just knew from like 30% in that I wasn't going to like. So I do want to get better at that. The very first book I read this year was Boys in the Valley by Philip Fracassi. I gave that like a 3.5, and then the very last book I read in the first quarter was Royal Assassin by Robin Hobb, which I gave a 4.5. My average rating is a 3.1. That sounds about right. I do very much read for pleasure. There's only been a handful of like, man, this was awesome, like 5-star read in the first quarter. And I mean, it's fine. It's still a lot of year left, but I'm seeing how many 5 stars. How many 5 stars did I give out? I gave out 11 5 stars. See what I mean? Yeah, but the lower rated ones, I'm like, I should have DNF'd you. And then my series tracker. In the first quarter, I'm continuing with the Farseer trilogy. I've read books 1 and 2. I read the first book at the end of last year, and I just finished the second one in March. So I have one more book in the Farseer trilogy, then I will move on to the Liveship Traders, which is part of the realm of the Elderlings by Robin Hobb. I continued the Bill Hodges trilogy by Stephen King, read listened to Mr. Mercedes last year, and then I also followed it up with Finders Keepers, which I really didn't like. And I think that's what's keeping me from finishing the series. I just really didn't like the second one. I kind of wish Mr. Mercedes had just been a standalone because I think it was great as it was. The Reaper series by Ren Shipeko. I read Silver Under Nightfall, and I just got the second book in the duology, A Court of Wanderers, so I will finish that this year for sure. Bright Falls by Ashley Herring Blake is a romance trilogy all set in the town of Bright Falls, which follows a group of friends, and I read the first one, Delilah Green Doesn't Care. I loved it. I really loved it. I'm pretty sure that's what kicked off my romance bug this year. And The Brown Sisters by Talia Hibbert. I read Get a Life, Chloe Brown in February, and I did really enjoy it. I do want to continue with the series. And The Roots of Chaos by Samantha Shannon. I read Priory of the Orange Tree. I really enjoyed that too, and I do want to read the prequel. I don't know when there's going to be another book. I don't even know if Samantha Shannon knows when there's going to be another book. They're very long. Those are my series so far. This list is definitely going to expand. 1000% this list is going to expand this year as I start more series and keep going on more series. I feel like one is missing from this list, honestly. Maybe it's something I read in April. I'm just kind of stuck in April. I did write down some notes. What content did I really love doing? Out of the videos that I've filmed so far this year, I really loved Booktuber's Best. I think next year I'll probably start that a little bit earlier in the year. It's closer to when everybody releases their favorite. Just start the year off that way, and then even maybe make my own list or read some of my favorite booktubers' favorites as well, something like that. But I did really enjoy making that video based off of Katie Coulson's video. That was super fun, as I adore Katie Coulson and I will watch anything she makes. I just really enjoy her style and her vlogs. So that was really fun. I do want to do more horror videos and more challenges too. I do want to do a 24-hour reading challenge. Other ideas, like I have the Paperbacks from Hell vlog I want to do very badly. I have an idea for doing a Fear Street reading vlog because I got a bunch of Fear Street books for like nothing on eBay, and there's some of my favorites or some that I remembered really liking from my preteen years that I want to revisit as an adult that I think would be really fun, as well as just reading more fantasy and doing more fantasy book vlogs or like new release vlogs, or just focusing on one book in a vlog. I think that would be nice. Is there anything you guys want to see from me? Any content that you think, or challenge that you think would be fun for me to pursue? Do you want to see more lifestyle vlogs, more reading vlogs, more sit-down vlogs, list type of things? I do have a vlog. Oh, I just thought of this the other day, like if you like this horror movie, read this horror book. I thought that would be really fun to film because I do have quite the library of horror films in my head, and I think like matching them up with books that I really enjoyed would be super fun. But yeah, with that being said, I think we can get into my favorites of the year so far. I did want to start with an honorable mention, and I just mentioned it previously in my series tracker. Delilah Green Doesn't Care by Ashley Herring Blake. This was the first romance I read this year, and I think it really kicked everything off for me because I've read 5. If you had told me last year that I would be getting into romance, I would have been like, yeah, no, not happening. But this drew me in. I had heard from other creators that I really liked that this was just delightful, and it had really good bisexual rep, which I always appreciate. And it is so unabashedly gay, and I just love this book. I can't wait to continue the series. This follows Delilah Green, who grew up in Bright Falls and moved away as soon as she could out to the East Coast to New York to pursue a career in photography. She grew up in a household with her stepmother and stepsister and didn't really feel a connection to them after her father died. She never really felt a connection to Bright Falls and never really had desire to go back. As her stepsister is getting married, her name's Astrid, she reaches out to Delilah to photograph the wedding and also to be a bridesmaid because she desperately wants to have a close connection with truly her only sister. And Delilah is very much grumpy and doesn't want to be there, doesn't want anything to do with that town or the people. But the first night that she is around in town, she goes to the local bar and runs into Claire, who Claire doesn't recognize her. Claire is Astrid's best friend and grew up around Astrid and Delilah. And remember, Delilah is like a very quiet, awkward, weird girl, but she always felt kind of bad for her. And she didn't realize who she's flirting with at this bar is Delilah, and Delilah knows who she is almost immediately, so she starts to play along and flirt, and then that happens and it's really awkward. Oh, you're Delilah, and oh my god, you look amazing. And goes into 2 weeks of wedding planning, wedding shenanigans. There's bridesmaid hijinks, there's this forced proximity type of thing, which I found out I really liked in romance, and there is obviously chemistry between the two of them. I really love this. I thought it was so sweet and heartfelt. I love the characters. I loved all of them. I can't wait to read the rest of the series. I will definitely reread this for sure. It was such a surprise to me. Like I said, I just never expected to read a romance or to be so head over heels for these characters. And yeah, it was just delightful, and I hope that if it's ever adapted, I would hope if they make Bright Falls a series, that'd be amazing. I want it to be like a Nora Ephron type of 90s vibe. Like, I think it would be perfect. So that's my honorable mention. My favorite 3 from this year, I'll start with, which I think this was the second or third book I read this year, Juniper and Thorn by Ava Reid. I love this. I first gave it 4 stars, and then I was like, that's not right. I've been thinking about this book for weeks after I finished it, and I bumped up to 5. I loved it. I loved the writing, I loved the world, I loved the characters. Ava Reid definitely shot up my list of authors I want to read more of, and I can't wait for her new release later this year. This is about a disgraced wizard living in this town called Oblia that's on the rise of industrialization, is really leaving magic in the past, and he's a disgraced, cursed wizard, lives in this ramshackle house with his 3 daughters who also have magical abilities, and to the town of Oblia, they're kind of oddities. They're kind of stuck in time, and the only time anyone ever comes by is to really just ogle his beautiful daughters, and they do like small parlor tricks. They all have some type of magic. The youngest daughter, Marceline, when she touches you, she knows what ails you and how to fix it. Is very much mousy, very quiet, under her father's thumb, very much a servant to him and her sisters in this house. Unbeknownst to their father, the 3 sisters go to the newly opened ballet, where Marceline bumps into the principal dancer, Sebastian, and immediately they have a connection. They're not sure how they're going to keep meeting given Marceline's circumstances. And in the background of the story, there's all these murders that are taking place in the city. There's this mystery involved. I really liked that it was the main characters both had their own type of trauma and came together to help each other work through it. It was a very touching and beautiful relationship that Ava Reid built. This is a very dark book. Like, all the trigger warnings. There was one part in particular that I wasn't expecting, and I didn't look up content warnings because I thought it was a dark fairy tale. There's one part in particular I did not see coming, and it really like bowled me over. So if this interests you, definitely look up content warnings if you have any type of sensitivities. But I thought that was handled so well in this book, and Ava Reid handled these characters and their traumas so well, and I loved all of it. I want to reread it. I probably am going to reread it soon. And I got the other book that's part of this world, Wolf and the Woodsman, which is her debut. I remember when I said the only book I've read out of my 1001 list ended up on my top favorites. It is Till by Daniel Kelman. This is translated from German by Ross Benjamin. This is historical fiction, but it almost doesn't read that way. It almost reads like a fantasy or magical realism. This follows Till Eulenspiegel, who is a person in German folklore. I don't know a ton about it, but that really doesn't matter because Daniel Kelman basically uses him as an avatar to go through this history and story of Europe during the 30 Years' War. I barely know anything about Europe or Germany during this time period. I flew through this book. It is such an incredible character study. It follows Till from when he's a very young boy until he's an older man, and all the people he encounters over the 30 Years' War, and also just how dark and horrible Europe was during this. And he runs into a disgraced queen, a fallen duke, a priest, because Till is a traveling performer. He's a jester. As he goes around Europe during this time trying to offer some type of levity and joy to anyone he encounters, Till also affects their lives in a certain way, as well as them affecting his life and his story. I loved this. Look how much I tabbed. This is one of the best books I've ever read, for sure. This will 1000% be on my end of the year list. I suspect, because I got so emotional reading it. I also laughed out loud multiple times reading this. It was just so beautifully done, and you think all the stuff I said about the plot, that this would be very dense. It's not. It's a little bit less than 400 pages. I flew through it. I was so invested in all the characters and the plot. I was laughing, I teared up, I underlined so much because it was just such brilliant writing. And yeah, I cannot recommend this enough. If you like historical fiction, or like historical fiction with a bit of a twist, I would highly suggest picking this up. And so far this year, this is the standout book, and I'm surprised, and you're probably going to be surprised too, because this is a very divided book. You either really love it and totally get it and are just like, this is exactly what I want high fantasy to be, or you absolutely hate it. You think it's too long. There's not enough going on. The climax wasn't that great. There's two different ships. I am on the ship that thinks this is brilliant. I think it is more of a slow burn character study, which is what I figured out I really enjoy in fantasy, reading Robin Hobb, and that is Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. I adored this. And it's so funny because for all the reasons I listed that why people don't like this, I totally see it. I see you, I hear you. I almost DNF'd this 3 times within the first 100 pages because I was like, I don't know what the hell is going on. You are thrown into this world without a life raft, and there's so many characters and so much lore and so much world building. You have to sink or swim. When I said I almost DNF'd it 3 times, I kept feeling this urge to pick it up back again, because there's something about how the main characters are written that I couldn't get away from. And again, look at this. I loved it. I did. I loved it. I don't know what else to say. There's only so much I can talk about because it is a very extensive world, a very extensive plot. But at the baseline of this plot, this is a world that is split between those who revere dragons and think of them as gods, holy, and they must be worshipped, and then those who hate dragons and think they are evil, just destroy this world and take it as their own. And it follows a Queen Sabrinth IX, who is under a ton of pressure to conceive an heir who must be a woman in order to protect the world that she is ruler of, or else the Nameless One, which is a dragon or a verm, will come back and take over the world. And there is Ede, who is a very well-trained mage from the Priory of the Orange Tree, and her main job is to protect Sabrinth, but she's in disguise as a chambermaid to Queen Sabrinth IX. Then you're following Tane, who is in the east, who is a dragon rider, and at the beginning of the book is forced to make a very hard decision that will affect her entire life. And there's also like some other characters, but those are the 3 main characters. This is very much queer feminist fantasy, and I think Samantha Shannon did something incredible here, and I think this is the type of high fantasy I really like, and I think it's why I like Robin Hobb so much, is because I think the finale might fall flat for some people, but I think it's more about the character's journey than it is anything else. I think I don't know if I lost anything. I'll see when I'm editing, but I don't know if I lost anything. But anyway, for me, this is exactly what I want out of high fantasy. You are with the characters for so long in their world, and when it's done, you almost mourn them. And I cannot wait to pick up the prequel. It came out in paperback in March, and I just love big floppy paperbacks like this, and I cannot wait to dive back into this world and see what Samantha Shannon does next. But that's it. What were your favorite books that you read in the first quarter of the year? What were your least favorite? Is there any you think I should pick up that I would really like? Have you read any of the books that I listed? And is there any content for me that you want to see? But I've had so much fun being here with you all. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. And while you're down there, just hit subscribe. The support means a lot, as always. Thank you for clicking. Thank you for watching. And I'll have a new video for you soon. Bye!